Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Mr. Walton, I'd like to take the opportunity of thanking each and every one of you for coming out tonight to celebrate this fine lady's life. I know it greatly appreciates it. Before Chaplain begins his service, I just want to take a minute for everyone to please turn off their devices. Make sure they're off so nothing disturbs our ceremony. I think the chaplain's going to have a few words, and he's going to invite anybody who wants to come up and say a few words as well. And again, thank you very much for being here. I know Mr. Walton greatly appreciates it. Chaplain.
Well, good evening, folks. Thank you so much for being here on behalf of Jim and his family. We're just glad that you're here to celebrate Evelyn's life, and that's what we want to do tonight. I'm very thankful that that was the word that funeral director used tonight, because that's what we want to do. That's what Jim's wishes were, was to celebrate her life. And so I did not have the privilege to know her. I've known Jim for about 3 years now. And unfortunately, during that time, I never did get to meet her. But Jim did share some information about her with me. And I'm sure many of you have a lifetime of stories to be able to share and to tell. And so what I would like to do is just read a couple of things and some scriptures tonight, and to share with you a couple of thoughts as we kind of move forward this evening. As you know, she is survived by her husband Jim and her 2 children, Dwayne and Diane. Unfortunately, Diane could not be here tonight. I think she's fighting a cold. And so we are going to film this evening so that she can be a part of that. She was born back in 1938 in Iowa City, Iowa, and she passed away to be with the Lord this past May the 6th. And so a couple of the scriptures that just come to mind when I was thinking about this is something that Jesus said in John chapter 11, verses 25 and 26. Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet he shall live. And anyone who lives and believes in me shall never die." And he asked the woman he was talking to at the time, "Do you believe this?" And so one of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight, that I was reading some information that Jim had given to me, was when Evelyn actually first kind of caught his eye and he pursued her. One of the things he quickly found out was that her and her family were part of a church family, and that they loved the Lord. And so through that, what had happened is he continued to date and court her. He wound up going to church. And because of that, Jim himself became a Christian. And as I was reading through a little bit of her life, and as I was seeing how she took care of her home and her children, and how she supported her husband as they moved many times kind of across the country, one of the things that really struck me was something from Proverbs 31. A very, very familiar passage. If you know Proverbs 31, let me read this to you, because I think this is a very good description of Evelyn. It says this: "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her." And as I was reading through these stories, and as Jim and I were talking, this is the image of the woman that I saw that he had been married to. And so let's celebrate who she is and what she's done. And let's also be at peace, because she loved the Lord, she's with the Lord. And that's the promise that the Lord has given to us. When we place our hope and our faith and our trust in Jesus Christ, we will be with him for all eternity. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to come and to speak. Now, we are recording this because unfortunately Diane could not be here. So let me encourage you to come forward so that she could see you. At the same time, you are more than welcome to stand up where you are and just share a story about her, because we want to remember who she is and what she has done. And after some time has passed, I will come and I will close our time out this evening. Okay. I will come and tap you on the shoulder too, and tell you it's your turn.
I wrote some things down. Today was kind of slow at the office, so I had to kind of remember things, what happened when I was young. So I remember my mom years back, not past 6 years, which she was, my mother having Alzheimer's. She was a person who you can talk to and gave good advice. But being young, I didn't think she was giving good advice. She spent time being my Cub Scout leader, helping me through my merits as a Cub Scout. Mom would spend time with me, going through the book and making sure I understood what to do. I remember getting the awards, and I was proud of my achievements because of her. I was a kid growing up and gave my mom problems. I was rebellious. She nor Dad knew how to control me. I remember going to a psychologist because my parents didn't know what to do. I remember the psychologist because of his tongue. It was split in two because he had cancer that was removed. He would wiggle both sides, and I thought that was something else. And I thought it was cool as a kid. He made mention to my parents to be stern, always follow through what they told me, never waver. So my mom would tell me to clean my room on Saturdays. I could not leave my room until it was clean. My mom did most of the spanking in the family. I was about 13 or 14 years old. At that time, I was taller than my mom. I probably talked back to her or being flippant. We were in the kitchen. Mom found the cutting board. She said, "Put your hands on the counter." I did. She popped me on the cutting board. I was expecting more to come. I turned around and looked at it, and I split the cutting board in half. She knew it was time something had to change. My parents noticed my sister and I were getting unruly. They decided we needed church. I remember we tried different churches, none really fit us. Then Dad noticed the newspaper ad about Christian Church of Longwood, starting in Longwood. And from there it was history. They didn't have a big youth group as I remember growing up, but it was one big family to us. I know Mom really loved family get-togethers, either at her house or Diane's house. I remember if someone came over to the house, it had to be clean. We didn't like it when we heard somebody was coming over to the house because Mom turned into a drill sergeant that day. Mom did our bookkeeping for our business. She and Dad would come in later in the morning and would stay late. Dad often hated it on how Mom liked it. After 5 o'clock, she would concentrate better. Our company downsized, and Mom moved in bookkeeping in the house. She would call me, ask me how to adjust the printer and adjust the paper size. I came over to look at it and thought, that was simple to figure out. I didn't think too much of it until one day she called Dad and said, "How do I turn off the burners of the stove?" Dad went home. He said when he got there, all burners were glowing red. Something was wrong. Her grandchildren she loved to hold and spend time with. I sure wish she got to know them better now that they're grown up. When Diana and I were at the nursing home, I would say, "Hi, Mom, this is your son, Dwayne." She would say, "Hi, Dwayne." I like to think that she knew who I was. I knew that Diana and I used to get her to crack up and start laughing. That's one thing that we can do, get my mom to crack up. I sure miss that. Like I said to my dad, I remember my mom in my own way, not what she was like in the nursing home.
planned to stay back there and talk, but it was gonna be video for Diana. I am Diana's husband. Lucas Baird, just want to share a few thoughts with you. I don't have anything written down, but what I remember, Evelyn, when I was wanting to start dating her daughter, Diana, my future wife, I had to get by Jim and I had to get by Evelyn. And I don't think she really cared for me that much, and I think Jim possibly too, because they knew my drug background and whatnot. I was very honest with them about that and up front. But anyway, I knew the only way to get to the daughter was through the mother. So when they would invite me over to eat, and I ate a lot over there, I spent a lot of time over there. But anyway, the others would go, Dwayne and Jim would go, and Evelyn would, well, not Evelyn, Dwayne and Jim. Diana is what I mean, would go into the hall there, or not the hall, the TV room and start watching TV. I would stay with Evelyn and start talking with her, because I knew that's the one way to get through to the daughter, to get the mother's approval, if you will. But we had a lot of good talks. What they were about, I don't remember. We talked about a number of things, but she enjoyed talking to me, and I got to know her, and I really liked that, and I think she me, so. And then another thing, I would kid her constantly about her purse. Remember, Jim, how I would say, you know, I'll hold that purse for you. She was a bit tight, but anyway. And that was a joke. All it was a joke. I remember the first time I heard of strawberry rhubarb pie. It sounded so terrible. But Evelyn fixed it, and I've never had a pie that tasted better. It was more like a cherry something. But anyway, it was delicious. And Diana, that's still her favorite pie. One other thing, sauerkraut. Now, I love my mother's cooking, but sauerkraut she could not cook. It was like straight out of a can and very terrible. So when I heard we were going to have sauerkraut that night, I was wincing. But once I had some, evidently she put apple slices in it, and it was so delicious. I ate the whole pie, I think, and we won't talk about what the rest. But anyway, it was just wonderful to be around her, and like I said, I don't choose to remember her the way the last time I saw her. So that was not Evelyn, and so we'll leave it at that.
I think everybody pretty much knows who I am, Ryan Baird. Grandma was a special person. I do remember her always laughing a lot and getting her to crack up. She was by nature very collected, but once if you knew her and all, and you started talking and cracking up, she would start getting into you both would start just laughing and going back and forth. And from the outward appearance, you would look at her, and she was just very reserved, very elegant, very just, but you wouldn't just realize that. But as a family member, you know, Eric and I, you know, wrestling and fighting throughout the family gatherings and whatnot, and she would say, "Hey, boys, stop it!" And you know, we'd get her all riled up and whatnot, and purposely sometimes, I'm sure. But always had good memories of her, and she was always a joy. And even in the last days, she still was a joy to be around. She still had that spirit of laughter, and you know, whether she was mentally all there at the end, she still had the laughter about her, and that's what I really appreciated, because that's how I want to go. I want to go laughing, so I loved her, and she'll be missed.
Well, it's time to go to church, so we ride, Jim and Evelyn and Jerry and I take turns because we live in the same neighborhood. We're going to Mount Joy Church. So that's how I really got to know Evelyn. She'd always comment on how I looked every time I got in the car, and I loved her to death. But the best part I had with Evelyn, we sat beside each other in church every Sunday morning. And when they'd start singing the old hymns that her and I learned in our youth, she'd hold my hand, and her and I would sing together. And she told me so many times how much that meant to her. But now let's get to her sense of humor. And Jerry and Jim are part of it. More than once, we'd get in the car and we'd leave and we'd always go out to eat, the four of us. And this one Sunday morning, Evelyn said, "You're not hurrying fast enough." Well, why do we have to hurry fast? They're going to be out of meat when we get there. Hurry up, hurry up. And then Jim and Jerry got in on it. One of them looked at their watches and said, "Oh my gosh," I don't know if it was Jim or Jerry driving, "if we don't hurry up, they're not going to have any food at all then." And she says, "Well, I want meat. Make sure they have some meat left." So that was Evelyn. Loved her to death. You're welcome.
Name's Ken Williams. We come from the Claremont area. Jim and I have known one another for about 40 years. Jim and Evelyn and my wife and I, Ed and Betty Wood, Charlie Goldman and his wife, and Ken Plank and Alice, we started the church, or got together to start the church in Longwood. They didn't have a church, we didn't have a church, and we just moved down, and we met at Ken's place for a little while to see if we could get a group together, and that's when I met Evelyn. And they came down from Iowa. I'm right? Am I right? I think so. It's been a long time. But because of their being from out of state, we came down from Michigan, so we kind of got together with it. And when we started getting ready to build a church, we had to come up with land and all this kind of things, which we finally accomplished and all this. But Evelyn was the one that, I have a daughter sitting back here and a son that is about the same age as Dwayne and Diane. So we made a real nice type of a group. Went back and forth houses for lunch and such likes. But the thing that I liked about Evelyn, that she's always wanted to get Jim to be on time. It was hard for him to get going. She, you know, like she was just saying, "You're going to be late, you're going to be late." But Jim was in a business. He started a school for electronics for computers. And my son was one of the first class of people that graduated from your school, and he's still in that kind of thing business. So, but Jim, Evelyn, I just thinking back in 74, 75, 76, when we was building the church and getting it to going and all that, how many meals that we brought into that church. She was always there. She was always one to be ready to help. Do it now and get it done, you know. So those are the memories that I have, and I kept memories of Jim all these years. We've separated for the last 20 years or so, but we're still only, what, 40 miles apart or so. We got to get together again. But anyway, she was a great lady, and my wife and I enjoyed her a long time. And I was talking to some of the older ones from our church at that time, Ed and Betty and Charlie Blue. They're both in their 90s. So, you know, and they said to say hi for them. To all right? Thank you.
Hey, you're a place to stand here.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I met Evelyn at a women's retreat. I had started going to I moved from Illinois and I started going to the Longwood Church, and she and Jim were there. And we had women's retreats, and so she and I, well, all the women were there, but she and I decided we didn't like any of the workshops that were going on at that time. So we decided just to sit out and get acquainted with each other. And one of the first things we really discovered was my first husband had passed away quite a few years ago. But when I first met him, he had been in church when he was a small boy, but he hadn't been in church for a long time. So we discovered that if we hadn't met our husbands, we might not have become Christians. That was one of the first things we had in common. But then we found out, well, she's from the Midwest, I'm from the Midwest. There's a lot of things Midwesterners do and feel, and I'm getting shaky because I'm not used to standing. But so we discovered that in common, and we decided that we two Midwesterners should be good, great friends, and we were thankful that our families had raised us as Christians, and that we were bringing our first husband, well, our only husband, my first husband, into the church as being a Christian. He became a deacon and active in the church, and so we had that in common. But we decided that we could be good friends because we were from the Midwest. Now, the Floridian people are very nice people. I don't want to put them down. But we figured out that if you came from the Midwest, you were really special.
Anybody else? Now, I know there's a lot more stories out there that I haven't heard yet. Please.
I can't remember.
Please. Okay. I guess I'm it. Oh, no. Okay. Come on. Come on. Tell them who you are.
Eric Baird.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of all the good times that I had with my grandmother, and I was a little hard-pressed to remember some of the really good times before the disease. A few things I do remember is always going to Bill Knapp's and her loving that place to death, and then, of course, the fighting with my brother and I. I just remember her always, boy, stop it. And I think she tried to hit us with a shoe once. Yeah, we were definitely. And I just remember her laughter too, like Brian said. And I just remember her just laughing, and once she got her started, she would not stop. And she was very strict. She was very strict, but I think that's a good thing. But I think I remember the best times were going to church and then going afterwards to eat every Sunday, and that was really cool.
Now we know the truth.
Hi, Diane. I didn't know her all that well, believe it or not. We started at Longwood, and gosh, it was only about 10 years, so it was just a drop in the bucket of time that we got to know her. But one thing I did learn from her, because I was a little high-strung, just a little, with my little children and doing all the stuff with the kids and everything. One thing she taught me at a retreat one time when we were sitting and talking was, enjoy the moment and stop worrying about all the stuff. So she did teach me to take a look at things a little bit differently, and hopefully was part of the process of me not becoming so high strung. But I enjoyed her company whenever I was with her, and I found her to be a very wonderful lady. I didn't know her during her illness, so in some ways I got spared because I can remember her only in those good ways. But she was a wonderful lady, and I was so sad when she left. It felt like part of my family. So now that she's gone, I'm very sad I didn't know her during her last days. But I'm glad that we're all here to celebrate her today.
That's right.
This is very uncommon for me. I'm going to tell you something nobody else knows. The day I met Evelyn. I think I put it down in words somewhere, but I want you all to know. I was eating in the Highway Cafe in Cedar Rapids, and I was working at Wilson Company, a packing plant. Oh, by the way, I know how sausage and weenies are made. And in came these two girls. I was sitting there chowing down, as I always do, and I noticed this one girl wore a blue dress that had the wide skirts. I don't know what you call those. There you go. And she come, I could hear it rustle as she would walk in the door with her roommate, and then they would sit down at the booth. And the booth had high backs on it, about that high. And I didn't really do much of anything when I was eating there. And then I started hearing them giggle a little bit. So I turned around and I looked. They were both looking over the top of the seat at me. What are they looking at? I was there in my blue jeans and my work shirt, and I was pretty scruffy looking because nobody saw me at the packing house. I could dress any way I wanted to dress. But somehow or another, something interested her. So I thought about, maybe I'm going to go up and introduce myself and get to know them a little bit more. Because I guess my cousin was dating her. And my cousin was part of the restaurant. His dad owned the restaurant. So I didn't want to bother her because I know he was very jealous of her. So we went out a couple times on double dating, went to the movies, and I noticed she wasn't really having a good time. So they broke up. I said, now's my chance. So I asked my cousin, I says, you know where she lives? Oh, yeah. I said, you got her phone number? Yeah. Can I have it? Yeah. So I got the phone number of Evelyn. And I called her, got up and earth, and I called her. I says, are you doing anything tonight? No. Can I come over? Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll be over in 10 minutes. So I jumped in my 49-year-old Chevy and started up the road and found the apartment, went upstairs, and they lived above the garage in a little two-bedroom, not two-bedroom, but two-room apartment with a little kitchenette off to the side. And I sat down. She said, have you eaten yet? I said, no. And I never turned down a meal. So they cooked a meal for me. And ever since then, I've been eating. And they're my friends. I've told you something nobody else knows. Thank you for coming and being here in remembrance of her. I appreciate it very much.
Obviously, this is, we can continue to share stories together, but I am going to close our time in prayer. Feel free to just remember her, celebrate her, and share stories with one another as we close out our evening. Thankful for all of you being here, and thankful just for the stories that you shared, that we might remember someone very special in your life, and so someone very special to all of you. So pray with me. Father, I am just extremely thankful that you have given us a mind that can remember things. Even in the midst of going through something like Alzheimer's for years and years and years, and sometimes we forget what life was like before that, God, you help us to remember those very special moments and who the person really was, who you made them to be. And so I pray that you would fill our minds tonight with those memories. That as we see pictures, as we go through old things that we remember from Evelyn's life, that you would bring back those memories, that we can continue to celebrate and remember who she was, who you made her to be, and what she means to us. We're thankful. Most of all, she put her hope and her faith in Jesus. Amen. And I pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And friends, again, what everyone else has said, thank you all very much for coming tonight. I know it's greatly appreciated. I know Mr. Walton greatly appreciated it. We ask you now just to please go in peace.
So, do you have all grandsons? Okay, great granddaughter. Okay. Now, how old is she?
Hey.
Oh, cool. What's your life?
Yeah, she's the only girl in the family besides.
So all boys. Well, you have a girl, obviously, but all the
My brother, he has a boy. I have a boy too.
How old's your boy?
He's a little over 3.5.
I couldn't say anything,
That's okay.
but we were in that small group together.
Oh, yeah.
It just meant so much, and we got really close.
Sure.
But I've not told everybody this, but they think I'm in the early stages
Really?
of Alzheimer's. They put me on medicine for my mind, but it wouldn't work on me. So I don't know what, but I have been having a lot of health problems in addition to that.
Yeah.
But I love Evelyn, and I love your dad.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, no problem. Good to meet you.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. That was real good. I like that.
All right, I'm Jesse.
But I hope you get better. I hope they got something for you that'll help you out. I know that Mom had tried different things, and she had a blood thing.
Good to see you. Take care of everybody, okay?
Thank you. Yes, it was.
You get so tall. I was thinking the exact same thing about you,
Still haven't heard about that job.
She looks so much like that.
Yeah, I was thinking that. My mom used to have, she used to have 10 eyelashes. There to those.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, your mom had them too.
Yeah, that's great.
So he was talking 56.
Yeah. Well, no. Maybe because he had to get permission to get married because he was under 21. But she can get married because she was over 18. Girls can get married after.
How you doing, Ken?
Lem, that's right.
I'm thinking Lem when you walked in, but I don't know why I said Ken, because there's two other Kens.
Tell Kathy I said hello. Tell Kathy, tell Ross I said hello.
Appreciate what you guys said. It's really neat. Really neat. It's amazing how things, you didn't think nobody really knew Mom that much until you listen to some of these people.
I don't remember. How would I know she went?
I know
Yeah.
you know.
I know she went and went.
Yeah.
She was like my mom.
My mom didn't say up there, which I wasn't sure what she was going to say, was that she said at that retreat, I found out, and I got to know Evelyn, she was a brilliant woman.
And they have
She
two girls.
was a
They
brilliant
have
woman.
two
She
girls.
said,
Or
she just blah, blah, blah. I said, well, Mom, you two got along because you're smart. Oh, I am not. I said, Mom, nobody goes to the sharing center and just has no accounting and takes over and does the sharing center.
Wow.
Taxes, counting for a couple of years after she retired. She went in there. Now they were small.
Sure.
But she just took over. I said, you did their taxes for the year? Oh, yeah, I reported their taxes. And so they got along because they were both very, very highly intelligent. So I just thought I'd say that about your mom.
Yeah.
That she,
Midwest thing too.
yeah, and then there was the Midwest thing. But I think that my mom really liked your mom because they both knew they were probably, they're 3 days apart in their birthdays.
Are
Your
they?
mom's 10 years
Wow.
younger, 10 years and 3 days. But 3 days, so they had the same
Wow.
personality. Yeah.
Nice seeing your mom. It really was. Yeah. Did you see how weak he's looking? Or what? Did you know that he had a brain aneurysm?
Yeah, I knew something of it.
Yeah.
Stroke or aneurysm. It was an aneurysm.